Hey everybody, welcome to another World of Warships replay, and in this match I'm in the Mogami. This is my second match in it, the Tier 7 Japanese cruiser that follows on from the Alba, and is kind of like a Japanese Cleveland, not quite. It's got 5 turrets, and it starts out with 15 guns. 8 inches, I believe, and can be upgraded to double turrets with 10 inches. So you have a choice between 15 8 inches or 10 inches. Obviously the 10-inch guns do more damage when they actually hit, but, and this is a big but, you lose about 2 rounds a minute rate of fire from memory, and you also have 5 less shells in the air. Now what this means, although I should note your turrets traverse faster because there's less weight on them. What this means is that you're trading the enormous wall of shells that these things can put out for a harder punch when you actually hit something. Now I haven't done the math to work out whether it's actually a damage upgrade, assuming your entire broadside actually hits, but personally, I did try out the 10-inch guns, and I prefer the 8 inches because just the volume of fire you can put out is that much more useful. Much like the Cleveland, you can just shit out shells at people and take them down in a hurry. Mogami has scout planes, like most cruisers at this tier. It also has 4 torpedo tube sets, and I believe it's 4 tubes on each. I can't recall from memory, so you might have to wait until I actually launch some and we can count the torpedoes that come out, but I think it's either 4 triple tubes or 4 quad tubes. So it has a decent amount of torpedoes on it. Its anti-aircraft fire is okay, because this was my second match in it, it wasn't upgraded. As you upgrade its hulls, it does get incrementally improved anti-aircraft fire. I think there's 3 hulls for it, stock one and then 2 upgrades. The top upgrade gives you the best anti-aircraft while also giving you more hit points, and it doesn't negatively impact you in the way some hull upgrades do. For example, the higher tier Japanese destroyers losing firepower to get additional anti-aircraft. Fortunately, the enemy dive bombers managed to find their mark, so I used my repair kit to put the fire out, which was a mistake because I've now got torpedo bombers around me. I activate the special cruiser ability, which is an increased intensity of anti-aircraft fire for a while. It gives me 30 seconds of dunking on planes, while I try and figure out how I'm going to avoid dying to these torpedoes. Now, he's done a textbook job of launching these. I can't avoid getting hit by them, I'm not maneuverable enough. So I have to try and calculate how I can get hit by only one, which I just managed to do. Unfortunately, because I've already used my damage control team to put out the fire, I'm now stuck with flooding for another 47 seconds. So that's going to knock a lot of my hit points off, and also slow me down drastically. When you're flooding, your top speed is reduced by about half, and your ship becomes quite sluggish as well. So it's not just a hit point drain, it's also a severe crippling effect on your mobility. I'm not alone, however, there's a battleship following behind, and I've got a Baltimore here next to me. Comparisons between the Japanese and US cruisers. The Japanese cruisers get torpedoes. The only US cruisers to get torpedoes are the Phoenix, the Omaha, and the Atlanta, which is a premium. Every Japanese cruiser above tier, I want to say tier 2, from the Tatsuda up at tier 3, they all have torpedoes in varying amounts and of varying ranges. Most of the higher tier cruisers have 10km torpedoes. The Senjo actually got nerfed, and its torpedoes only go 8km, but I think they're quite fast. And speed is sometimes better than range, as far as torpedoes go. finally able to put out the flooding here and start putting long-range fire in this Alba. One of the biggest differences between the Japanese and US cruisers is that the US cruisers have much better anti-air than the Japanese cruisers do. It's a general theme among US ships, they have much better anti-aircraft weapons than the Japanese. And presumably the British will also lag behind the US in anti-air, but we'll have to wait and see. The enemy Mogami here has beached himself, so while he's an easy target, I will quite happily take advantage of that. As you can see, I ended up losing about half my hit points due to that torpedo, but I'll have to just try and make those half my hit points that I have left go a long ways. The enemy Mogami begins focusing his attention on me, as the Alba also is, but I get a good Citadel hit in there straight to his engine room, and the reason I'm Citadel hitting him, if you watch the arc of the shells, they're hitting at the waterline, punching through the belt, and then coming out somewhere on the other side of the ship beneath the water, going straight through his engineering spaces. That's really what you want to be doing. Most of these ships, if you want to Citadel hit them, you need to hit right at or below the waterline, and to do that you need to be at the range where your shells are going to arc in. If you're shooting flat into their sides, you're not going to do anything. You'll just end up doing what the British did to the Bismarck and put a whole bunch of holes in it that don't actually do much to sink the ship. Enemy aircraft appear to be going for our battleships, which is fine by me. The Baltimore is there to provide them anti-aircraft support, he's much better at it than I am, and I get some monstrous hits on the enemy Alba. There's a Baltimore behind him, so as the Alba goes down in flames, I shift my aim to the US cruiser. Baltimore, like all US cruisers, has quite nice guns. They fire pretty quickly, and they're quite accurate. I lose one of my main turrets permanently, and now I've got a running sort of broadside trading battle going on with the Baltimore, which in theory I should lose because I have a lot less hit points. In practice, although I'm not changing course at the moment because there's an island right next to me and I want to keep the maximum amount of guns trained on this guy that I can, I'm constantly adjusting my speed. So while my course is constant, my speed is messing with his ability to lead, and he's still hitting me, but he's not hitting me anywhere important. Meanwhile, he begins to make a turn towards me, which is a mistake. It makes him a very easy target, and makes it much more likely I'm going to get a very serious hit on him. Pop back out of the gunnery view to see what's going on around me, and thankfully one of my teammates helps me finish the Baltimore. There's a Pensacola coming. Now I really don't expect to last long against this guy as soon as he turns his attention to me. So while he's occupied with the ship to my front, which I believe was a Kitakami maybe? Let's see. No, Cleveland, sorry. I don't know where I pulled Kitakami from. Anyway, while he's focusing on the Cleveland, I'll just try and put as much fire on him as I can. Unfortunately, as you can see, the Cleveland is running behind me and his guns are now turning towards me. And those shots are for me. RIP. The Mogami, like all Japanese cruisers, has absolutely no armor whatsoever, but it does have speed and it does have a hell of a lot of guns. So the key to playing the Mogami is to either try and avoid damage altogether, or to at least mitigate it by making it difficult to get Citadel hits on you, because otherwise they will get Citadel hits on you. So we're left spectating our Baltimore, who is now very low on health. He's currently firing at Pensacola along with the Cleveland. The Cleveland is not long for this world, he just took a massive hit. And you can see, if we look at the Baltimore a bit closer, just the amount of anti-aircraft guns on this thing Remembering as well, those secondary turrets are 5-inch destroyer guns. They're dual-purpose turrets. They can fire aircraft. So these things can just put up an absolute wall of AA fire, which you'll see shortly. Meanwhile, the enemy team outnumber us, but we are on their cap. They don't have anybody on our cap, and it looks like their entire team has actually turned around to come back and try and reset us. Cleveland is still hanging on somehow, though not for long, I would imagine. And here you can see the Baltimore's anti-aircraft starting to come into effect. The anti-aircraft guns are actually animated now, the primary ones anyway, they track targets. The dual-purpose guns don't. They still count for anti-aircraft, but they don't actually behave like they're doing anti-aircraft fire. Like, what I mean is you can still have your secondary battery shooting at ships while also dealing anti-aircraft damage, because the way anti-aircraft works in this game is it casts a sort of an area of effect around your ship, and any aircraft in it will take constant damage based on your ship's anti-aircraft DPS. So that's how it works. You can see the traces going up and the guns turning, but it's basically just an area of effect weapon. And despite the volume of fire coming in, our team actually manages to cap out for a win.